Hey guys, welcome back. I got a great topic for you. 1990s trading cards. Baseball to be specific. What do you think of when you think of the 1990s? I have put together a list of the top 10 cards that I thought made the most impact on me and I remember vividly during that time period. Now let's set it up here. I'm in my mid to early 20s during the 90s. So my collecting had slowed down, other things had taken over, but I was still going to the card shops and the card shows once a month. And these were the cards that I remember, and let's see how they compare with what you may think is the top cards in the 1990s for you. Leave a comment for or against, my list. Let's get a debate going. This is a really good topic. But without further ado, let's go check out that list.
Starting off with a little bit of a curveball here, we got the 1991 Fleer Doc Gooden. We all know by the early 90s, Doc's star had dimmed compared to his mid-80 dominance. But I love this card, and it really stuck with me. But it did represent the tail end of the junk wax era, and it reminded me of Doc in his prime. Sometimes the card that means the most aren't the biggest hits. They're the ones that remind us of the players we couldn't stop rooting for. And number 9 is a card you wouldn't expect to pull out of a wax pack. It was the 1990 Topps USA George Bush. Topps printed a limited run for the president, who was a lifelong baseball fan, and few slipped into circulation somehow. Suddenly, collectors were talking about the President of the United States showing up in Topps packs. To me, this card represents the unpredictability of collecting in the 90s. Coming in at number 8 is a pure pop culture card. It was the 1990 score Bo Jackson, better known as the Bo Nose card. With the shoulder pads and the bat across his shoulders, it captured everything about Bo at the peak of his powers. He was that rare athlete who was bigger than the sports he played. And this card became iconic not just for me, but all my friends in the neighborhood. Every kid I knew wanted it, and every kid I knew got it and tucked it in their binders. Even now, it's less about value to me and more how it makes you, go back to when Bo Jackson felt larger than life. And number 7 is one of my favorite inserts from the early 90s. And on top of that, one of my favorite players from the 80s and 90s. We're talking about the 1993 Topps Black Gold Tony Gwynn. Topps was experimenting with those shiny premium looking cards, and Black Gold felt like something special to me at the time. And believe me, I loved Gwynn. He wasn't the flashiest player, but he was just a pure hitter. The best hitter of his generation, in my opinion. This card reminds me how inserts started becoming just as important as like base rookies. And for me, Gwynn was always worth chasing in any way you could. Coming in at number 6 is a certified awesome card and still blows my mind to this day. And it was the 1996 Select Certified Mirror Gold Frank Thomas. In the day, these parallels were incredibly hard to pull, and at the time, they were the future. Frank Thomas was the perfect player to lead this set. Great hitter, great power hitter, hitter for average, 2-time MVP, and in the 90s, he was one of the most feared hitters in the league. When I think about the rise of parallels and players and short prints, this card dominates it. All right, folks, we're halfway there. Coming in at number 5 is Griffey at his absolute peak. It's the 1993 Topps Finest Ken Griffey Jr. At that time, Finest was the first super premier set with glossy stock and those legendary refractors. They started it all. Griffey obviously was the face of baseball in the 90s, and I was a huge fan, along with millions of people. And this card just feels like the perfect combination and marriage of player and product. You're moving into the more premium cards, and Griffey was the king, and this card cemented that. And number 4 is the first and only error card in our list, and one of my favorites, and Frank Thomas's second appearance. It's the 1990 Topps Frank Thomas, no name on front. Somehow the printing process dropped his name entirely, leaving collectors with this strange card with no name on the front. It became an instant chase piece. And even to this day, it's one of the most recognizable errors in the hobby. And it just kind of captured the thrill of the unexpected for myself. And obviously, I never had that card, and I probably will never have that card. But to me, it's one of the ones that really rings out 1990s. because it's something that somebody found and nobody knows if you'll ever find it or if you won't until you try. Coming in at number 3, we've got Michael Jordan in a baseball uniform, but it might not be the one that you're thinking of. It's the 1994 Upper Deck Collector's Choice. Jordan's baseball career was short, but his cards were everywhere, and especially this card, and I loved this card back in the mid-90s. It had him taking his famous jump shot with a baseball in his White Sox uniform, and it felt like you were holding a piece of history. For me, it's a reminder of how the hobby captured cultural events as much as it did sports stats, and that's why it's number 3 on my list. We're almost to the top. Here's number 2, and number 2 is one of the ultimate chase cards of the 1990s. It was the 1994 Upper Deck Mickey Mantle, Ken Griffey Jr. dual auto. They were 2 legends from a different generation on the same card, and these were on-card signatures. They weren't sticker signatures. It was groundbreaking at the time. You didn't do a lot of inserted autos, so when this came about, it felt like it was the Holy Grail. And even if you never saw one in person, you just knew that there was a chance you could actually pull one. For me, this card represents magic, the hobby magic of the 90s. And the drum roll, please. And I'm sure many of you have probably already guessed it if you know your 90s baseball. It was the card that defined the 90s for myself. It was the 1993 SP Derek Jeter foil rookie. That foil service, it made it impossible to keep that thing mint condition, which only added to the legendary status of that card. Beyond the condition issues, this card symbolized the premium shift in the hobby. Once again, glossier, higher end, and designed to stand out. And of course, it was Derek Jeter, face of the Yankees and a generational star. I wasn't even a Yankees fan in the 90s, but I still had a place for Derek Jeter and what he did for baseball. When I think about 90s baseball cards, this is the one that stands out, and it is my number 1 card of the 1990s.
Well, guys, what'd you think? There it was, my top 10 cards of the decade that was the 1990s. What'd you guys think? Did I hit the mark? Did I miss? Did I leave some out? Leave a comment below and we can discuss your favorite cards of the 1990s. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and give it a thumbs up. And we'll see you next time as we go beyond the cardboard.